The entire bank was laughing at me. Not just one person, not just a quiet giggle, the whole place, the tellers behind their glass windows, the security guard by the door, the customers in their expensive suits. And right in front of me, the manager with his perfectly combed hair was laughing the loudest. His face was red, his eyes were wet with tears. He was pointing at my shoes and laughing so hard he could barely breathe. "You want to deposit how much?" he said between laughs. "Kid, look at yourself. Look at those shoes." Everyone turned to stare. At my feet, at the holes, at the tape holding them together, at the puddle of dirty water forming under my right shoe. And then they all laughed harder. I stood there in the middle of Liberty Financial Bank on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, holding a check for $1.2 million in my shaking hands, and I had never felt so small in my entire life. But what nobody in that bank knew, what they could not see past my worn-out shoes and my old jacket, was that this moment would change everything, not just for me, but for thousands of kids across New York, Texas, Connecticut, and beyond. Because sometimes, the people who laugh at you are the same people who make you stronger. Let me tell you how I got here. And let me tell you what happened next. Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. Comment where you're watching from. Someone near you might be watching too. Hit like, share, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a story. Watch till the very end, the final twist will blow your mind. Let's jump right in. My name is Leo. I am 12 years old, and this is the story of the worst day of my life that became the best thing that ever happened to me. It started that morning in our tiny apartment in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. I woke up to the sound of the subway rumbling underneath our building. The September sun was just coming through my small window. I could smell eggs cooking. Grandma was already up. She was always up before the sun. I got out of bed and my feet hit the cold floor. I looked down at my shoes sitting by my door. They were destroyed. The right shoe had a hole in the sole, so big I could see straight through to the floor. The left shoe was held together with silver tape that was coming loose. I had been wearing these shoes for 2 years, walking through Brooklyn snow, Brooklyn rain, Brooklyn heat. They used to be white, now they were the color of city dirt. "Leo baby, breakfast is ready," Grandma called from the kitchen. I walked out. Grandma was standing at the stove in her work uniform. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices in Manhattan at night, washing dishes at a restaurant on Nostrand Avenue during the day. She barely slept. Her hands always shook now, from working too hard. "Sit down and eat," she said, putting eggs on a plate for me. I sat at our small kitchen table. The same table we had been eating at for as long as I could remember. The same apartment we had been living in since my parents died. 3 years ago. A New York City bus hit their car on the Brooklyn Bridge. The driver was texting. My parents died right there. I was at school when it happened. P.S. 161. Grandma picked me up. She was crying. She told me they were gone. And just like that, everything changed. The city said they were sorry. They said they would pay us. But it took 3 years. 3 years of lawyers in Manhattan. 3 years of court dates. 3 years of waiting. And this morning, we finally got the check. "Leo," Grandma said, sitting down across from me. Her hands were shaking more than usual. "I need you to do something for me today. Something very important." She pulled an envelope out of her pocket, old and wrinkled. "I need you to take this to the bank. Liberty Financial on Atlantic Avenue. You know the big fancy one near the Barclays Center?" My stomach dropped. "Why can't you go?" "I have to work double shift. Marcy called in sick. If I say no, they will fire me. You know how it is." I knew how it was. In New York City, you could not afford to lose a job. Not when rent was so high. Not when everything cost so much. "What is it?" I asked, even though I already knew. "The settlement check, from the city, for the accident." The words hung in the air. "It expires today, baby. If we do not deposit it by 5 o'clock, we lose it. We have to start all over again. More lawyers, more waiting. I cannot do that again." I saw tears in her eyes. Grandma never cried. "How much is it?" I whispered. "Enough to change our lives. Enough to get you new shoes, new clothes, fix this place up, save money for your college." Maybe I can stop working so hard. She reached across the table and took my hand. Please, Leo. I know it is scary. I know people will look at you. But I need you to be brave. Can you be brave for me? I looked at my grandmother, at her tired eyes, at her shaking hands, at the woman who gave up everything to raise me after my parents died. Okay, I said, I will go. She hugged me tight. Thank you, baby. Just give them the check. Show them your school ID. I wrote a note giving you permission. It will be fast, in and out. But it was not fast. And it was definitely not in and out. I got dressed in my best clothes. But my best was not good. Jeans with a patch on the knee. A t-shirt that was too small. My dad's old jacket that was too big. And those shoes. Those terrible, broken shoes. I put the envelope in my backpack. Put my school ID in my pocket. Grandma's note was folded with the check. You look so handsome, Grandma said. But I could see the worry on her face. She knew how people in fancy Brooklyn banks looked at kids like me. I walked the 8 blocks from our apartment to Atlantic Avenue. It was cold for September. Wind blew through the hole in my shoe. I stepped in a puddle near the bodega and my whole foot got wet. When I got to Liberty Financial Bank, I stopped outside. The building was huge, all glass and steel, like something out of a movie. Rich people walked in and out, men in suits carrying briefcases, women in high heels and designer dresses. Everyone looked clean, perfect, like they belonged in this new fancy Brooklyn. I stood outside for 10 minutes, maybe longer. People walked past me. Nobody looked at me. Finally, I took a deep breath and pushed through the heavy glass doors. The inside was even fancier. The floor was so shiny I could see my reflection. Leather chairs, big plants in expensive pots. Everything was perfect and clean. And I was not. I walked toward the front desk. My wet shoes squeaked on the floor. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Everyone turned to look. A young woman at the front desk looked up. She was pretty. Perfect makeup, perfect suit. She looked at me like I just tracked mud into her house. Can I help you? She asked. But her voice said, go away. I need to deposit a check, I said quietly. She looked me up and down. Her eyes stopped at my shoes. Her nose wrinkled like she smelled something bad. Is your parent with you? No, but I have a note from my grandma, and my ID. We do not let children handle accounts without adults, she said. She was already looking back at her computer, already dismissing me. Please, I said. My grandma is working. The check expires today. That is not my problem. Behind me, I heard someone laugh. I turned around. 2 men in suits were standing by the water cooler. They were looking at me, whispering, pointing at my shoes. Look at those shoes, one of them said loud enough for me to hear. What is a kid like that doing here? The other one said. My face got hot. I wanted to run, to get back on the subway and go home to Crown Heights. But I thought about Grandma, about her, shaking hands, about 3 years of waiting. Please, I said to the woman again. I have everything you need. She let out a big sigh like I was ruining her whole day. Wait here. She got up and walked away. I stood there. More people started looking. An old man in an expensive coat. A woman with a purse that probably cost more than our rent. The security guard. I heard more whispers. Why is he here? Look at his clothes. Those shoes have holes. Probably trying to cash a stolen check. This is not Houston or some small town. This is Brooklyn. We have standards. Each word felt like a punch. The woman came back with a man. He was older, balding. His suit was expensive. Really expensive. Like the kind people wear when they live in Connecticut and just come into the city to work. He had a gold name tag that said, Manager. He looked at me. Then he looked at my shoes. Then he smiled. But it was not a nice smile. Son, he said loudly. Loud enough for everyone to hear. What seems to be the issue here? I need to deposit a check for my grandmother, I said. I pulled out the envelope with shaking hands. The manager took it, opened it. His eyes went wide. Then his face changed. He started to smile bigger. Everyone, he called out. Everyone, come look at this. People started gathering around. Tellers came out from behind their windows. Customers stopped what they were doing. Even the security guard walked over. The manager held up the check, high in the air, so everyone could see. This young man, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, Wants to deposit a check for $1.2 million. The whole bank went silent for just a second. Then someone laughed. Then someone else. Then everyone. The whole bank erupted in laughter. People were pointing at me, at my shoes, at my clothes, at my wet foot, leaving a puddle on their perfect floor. "Look at him," someone shouted. "Those shoes," another person yelled. "Where did he steal that check?" someone else called out. The manager was laughing the hardest. His face was red. Tears were running down his cheeks. He bent over, holding his stomach, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. "Kid," he said between laughs, "look at yourself. Look at those shoes. You really expect us to believe you have over $1 million? "It is real," I said. My voice cracked. I felt tears burning in my eyes, but I would not let them fall. "It is from the city. My parents died 3 years ago. On the Brooklyn Bridge, the city is paying us. Please just call and check." "Oh, this is rich," the manager said. "The city is paying you, a kid who cannot even afford shoes?" More laughter, louder now. "This is fraud," someone yelled. "Call the police," someone else shouted. The manager wiped tears from his eyes. He was still laughing. "Son, I'm going to give you one chance. Take this fake check and leave before I call the police. Because if you do not leave right now, I will have you arrested for attempted fraud." "It is not fake," I shouted. My voice was louder than I meant it to be. "Call the city. Call and verify it. Please." "I am not calling anyone," the manager said. "You are wasting everyone's time. Look around you. These are successful people. People who matter. People who belong here. You do not belong here. So, leave." He said it loud, clear, in front of everyone. "You do not belong here." The words cut deeper than any knife. I looked around at all the faces, all the people laughing, all the people judging me, all the people who saw my shoes before they saw my heart. The security guard started walking toward me. His hand went to his belt. "Time to go, kid," he said. This was it. They were going to throw me out. Grandma would lose the money. 3 more years of lawyers. 3 more years of waiting. Or maybe we would never get it at all. I closed my eyes. I thought about my parents, about how they always told me to stand up for myself, to fight for what was right. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but no words came out. And then I heard a voice that cut through all the laughter like a knife through butter. "That is enough." Everyone stopped laughing. The whole bank went silent. I opened my eyes. A woman was walking toward us. She was old, maybe 70, maybe older, white hair, simple dress. She carried a cane, but she walked strong, powerful, like she owned the place. Actually, I would find out later, her family kind of did own the place. "What is going on here?" she demanded. Her voice was quiet, but somehow everyone could hear it. "Ma'am, this does not concern you," the manager said, but his voice was different now, nervous. "I am a customer of this bank," the woman said. "I have been banking here for 40 years, since before this neighborhood got fancy. And I think it does concern me when I see a child being humiliated by a grown man who should know better." The manager's face went from red to white. "Ma'am, I assure you, this boy is trying to deposit a fraudulent check." "Did you verify that it is fraudulent?" she asked. "Well, no, but just look at him." "I am looking at him," the woman said. "I see a young boy who had the courage to walk into this bank alone. I see a child who is trying to help his family. What I do not see is a fraud. What I do see is a room full of adults who should be ashamed of themselves." She turned to look at everyone, at all the people who had been laughing. "You should all be ashamed," she said quietly, "judging a child by his shoes, by his clothes. Is this what we have become? Is this what Brooklyn is now?" Nobody said anything. People looked down at the floor, at their phones, anywhere but at the woman. She turned back to the manager. "Make the call. Verify the check, right now." "Ma'am, with all due respect, do you know who I am?" she asked. The manager looked at her closer, really looked at her face, then all the color drained from his face. "Mrs. Sterling," he whispered. "Yes, Catherine Sterling. My late husband founded this bank 50 years ago. And I still sit on the board of directors. Now, I will ask you one more time. Are you going to verify this child's check, or am I going to call the board and tell them how you humiliated a 12-year-old boy in front of a room full of people?" The manager looked like he might faint. I will verify it immediately. Right away. Please, Mrs. Sterling, there is no need to. Go, she said. He practically ran to his office. Mrs. Sterling looked at me. Her eyes were kind, warm. What is your name, son? She asked gently. Leo, I whispered. I was shaking. I could barely talk. Leo, that is a strong name. Come sit with me. She led me to one of the leather chairs. Everyone else in the bank suddenly found somewhere else to be. The people who had been laughing disappeared. The tellers went back behind their windows. The security guard walked away. Are you okay? Mrs. Sterling asked. I shook my head. Tears finally started falling down my face. I could not stop them anymore. They laughed at me, I said. Everyone laughed. I know, she said softly. And they were wrong. Every single one of them. But look at me, I said. Look at my shoes. They were right. I do not belong here. Mrs. Sterling reached out and took my hand. Her hand was old and soft and warm. Leo, let me tell you something. 60 years ago, I was you. I grew up poor in the Bronx. My shoes had holes too. My clothes were old. And people judged me. They laughed at me. They told me I did not belong. What did you do? I asked. I proved them wrong. I married a man who saw past my shoes. Who saw my heart. We built this bank together. We built a life. But I never forgot what it felt like to be laughed at. To be dismissed. To be told I did not belong. She squeezed my hand. Those people out there, they do not matter. What matters is that you had the courage to walk through those doors. To stand up for yourself. To fight for your family. That takes more strength than any of them will ever have. The manager came back. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. The check is legitimate, he said quietly. From the New York City Comptroller's office. Settlement payment for the death of. He looked at me. I am so sorry. Mrs. Sterling stood up. And? The manager turned to me. I apologize. I was wrong. Completely wrong. We will process your deposit immediately. And? He looked around at the empty bank. Everyone had suddenly left. I will personally handle your account, no fee. And again, I am deeply sorry. I did not say anything, I just nodded. They processed the check, put the money into Grandma's account. The whole time, Mrs. Sterling stood next to me, like a shield, like protection. When it was done, I had a receipt in my hand, proof that $1.2 million was now safely in Grandma's account. Mrs. Sterling walked me outside. Atlantic Avenue was busy. Cars honking, people rushing, the normal Brooklyn chaos. Leo, she said, pulling out a card from her purse. This is my personal number. My apartment is on 5th Avenue in Manhattan, but I come to Brooklyn 3 times a week. If you ever need anything at all, you call me. Thank you, I said, for helping me, for standing up for me. No, she said. Thank you for reminding me why my husband and I built that bank. It was supposed to be for everyone. For working people. For families like yours. Somewhere along the way, people forgot that. But I will make sure they remember. She looked down at my shoes, at the holes, at the tape. Never be ashamed of those shoes, Leo. They tell a story of survival, of strength, of a boy who kept going when everything was hard. Wear them with pride. Then she hugged me and walked away, disappeared into the crowd of people on Atlantic Avenue. I stood there for a long time, holding the receipt, looking at the numbers, $1.2 million. We were going to be okay. After 3 years of struggling, 3 years of watching Grandma work herself to death, 3 years of holes in my shoes and patches on my jeans. We were finally going to be okay. I walked home through Brooklyn, past the bodega, past the barber shop, past the kids playing basketball in the park. My right shoe still had a hole. My jacket was still too big. But something inside me felt different, stronger. When I got home, Grandma was there. She had come home early. Did you do it? She asked. Her voice was shaking. I handed her the receipt. She looked at it. Then she looked at me. Then she started crying, happy crying, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. You did it, she whispered. My brave boy, you did it. That night, we ate dinner at our small kitchen table, the same table where we had eaten eggs that morning, but everything felt different. The weight was gone. The fear was gone. "Tomorrow," Grandma said, "we are going to that nice shoe store in Manhattan. We are getting you new shoes. The best shoes they have." I thought about Mrs. Sterling's words, about pride, about remembering. "Can we wait a little bit?" I asked. "Why, baby?" "Because these shoes got me through today. They walked me to that bank. They stood strong when everyone was laughing. I want to wear them a little longer, to remember." Grandma's eyes filled with tears. "Your daddy would be so proud of you." That night, I lay in bed thinking about the day, about the laughter, about the humiliation, about Mrs. Sterling who saved me. And I made a promise to myself. When I grew up, I would never judge someone by their shoes. I would never laugh at someone because they looked different, because they had less. I would look deeper, at their heart, at their courage, at who they really were. But what I did not tell Grandma that night was that I had a secret that would change everything. 6 months before that terrible day at the bank, I had started making money, real money. I had always loved computers. I taught myself to code when I was 9 at the Brooklyn Public Library on Grand Army Plaza, free classes after school. While other kids played basketball, I learned Python, JavaScript, HTML. By the time I was 11, I was really good. One day, I found a coding competition online. A big tech company in Texas needed help. Their security system had a problem. Hackers were getting in. They offered $10,000 to anyone who could find the problem and fix it. I worked on it for 3 weeks, every night after Grandma fell asleep, every weekend. And I found it. The problem was hidden deep in the code. But I found it, and I fixed it. I sent in my solution not thinking anything would happen. I was just a kid from Brooklyn. Why would they care? But they did care. 2 days later, I got an email. They wanted to hire me as a consultant. They would pay me $5,000 a month to find problems in their systems. I said yes. For 6 months, I worked in secret, late at night, on weekends, making money, real money. $30,000 total. I kept it all in an online account. I wanted to surprise Grandma, to show her we did not have to struggle anymore. But then the settlement check came, and I realized if I told her, she would worry. She would ask questions. How does a 12-year-old make that much money? So, I kept it secret. But that day at the bank changed something in me. When that manager laughed, when everyone pointed at my shoes, when they told me I did not belong, I realized something. I was not just a kid in worn-out shoes. I was more than that. I had skills, talent, intelligence, and I had $30,000 that nobody knew about. I made a decision. I was going to use that money to prove something, to show everyone that you cannot judge people by looking at them. 1 month later, I walked back into Liberty Financial Bank. I wore the same shoes, the same jacket, the same everything. But this time was different. I walked straight to the manager's office. The same manager who had laughed at me. "I want to open an account," I told his secretary. She looked at me the same way everyone had looked at me before, like garbage. "We require a minimum deposit of $1,000, she said with a smug smile, like she knew I did not have it. I pulled out my phone, showed her my account balance, $30,000. Her face went white. "I will get the manager." The manager came out. When he saw me, he looked like he might be sick. "Leo," he said carefully, "what can I do for you?" "I want to open an account," I said. "And I want to make sure no kid ever gets treated the way you treated me. So I am depositing my money here. And I am going to make sure everyone in Brooklyn knows that your bank almost turned away a client with $30,000 because of his shoes." The manager went pale. "Please, let me make this right. I will personally handle everything." "No," I said. "I want whoever is available. Because it should not matter who I am or what I look like. Everyone deserves respect." A young teller helped me. She was kind, patient. She did not ask about my shoes. When I left, I saw the manager watching me through his office window. He looked defeated. But I was just getting started. That night, I emailed Mrs. Sterling. I told her everything. About the coding, about the money, about my plan. She wrote back immediately. "Come see me tomorrow, 5th Avenue. I will send a car." The next day, a black car picked me up in Brooklyn, drove me across the bridge into Manhattan, dropped me off at a building on 5th Avenue near Central Park. The kind of building I had only seen in movies. Mrs. Sterling's apartment was beautiful. You could see all of Central Park from her windows. But she made me feel comfortable. She gave me cookies and milk. "You are extraordinary, Leo," she said. "But you are also 12. You should not carry this alone." "I have Grandma," I said. "Does she know?" I shook my head. "Tell her. She would be proud." So I did. That night, I told Grandma everything. She cried. Then she laughed. Then she cried again. "You did all that?" she whispered. "My baby?" "I am not a baby. I am 12. She smiled. A real smile. "What do you want to do with the money?" "I want to start a foundation. To help kids like me. Kids from Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens. Kids who are smart but do not have resources. Kids who get judged because of their shoes. I want to give them computers. Coding classes. Opportunities." Grandma looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "Your daddy would be so proud." We started the foundation 2 months later. Mrs. Sterling helped us. She donated money, connected us with lawyers and accountants. We called it Second Chances. We started in a community center in Crown Heights. The local news heard about it. New York One wanted to do a story. A 12-year-old starting a foundation. A kid who coded his way out of poverty. I agreed. But I told them the whole story. About the bank. About being laughed at. About Mrs. Sterling. The story aired on a Tuesday night. The response was massive. People from all over New York City called. Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, the Bronx. People wanted to donate, to volunteer, to help. Liberty Financial Bank called too. The manager was fired. The bank donated $50,000 to Second Chances. But the best part was the kids. Within 3 months, we had 50 kids in our program. By 6 months, 200. Kids with worn-out shoes and old clothes. Kids who were smart and talented but never got a chance. We gave them computers. We taught them to code. We showed them they mattered. And they were incredible. One girl, Sophie, was 8 years old from the Bronx. She created an app to help homeless people in New York find food and shelter. She won a national competition. One boy, Jay, was 14 from Queens. He built a website connecting elderly people with kids who needed tutoring. These kids were changing the world. 2 years passed, then 3. Second Chances grew bigger. We expanded beyond New York. We opened centers in Houston, Texas, in Miami, Florida, in Hartford, Connecticut. I turned 15. I was at Brooklyn Tech now, still living with Grandma in Crown Heights. But Grandma only worked one job. Her hands did not shake as much. I kept those shoes, the ones with holes, in my closet. Sometimes I would take them out and remember. One day, a big tech company in California called. They wanted me to speak at their conference in San Francisco. "We will pay you $10,000, they said. "Donate it to Second Chances," I said, "and hire 10 kids from our program for summer internships." Deal. I flew to California, spoke to 5,000 people. I brought my old shoes, put them on the podium. These shoes walked me through the hardest day of my life in Brooklyn. I told the crowd. They carried me into a bank where everyone laughed at me, where everyone judged me, where everyone told me I did not belong. The room was silent. But these shoes were wrong about me, and I was wrong about these shoes. They were not a sign of weakness. They were proof of strength. They showed that I survived, that my grandmother worked herself to death in New York City to take care of me, that we kept going when everything was hard. I held the shoes high. Never judge someone by their shoes. You do not know where those shoes have walked. Through Brooklyn, through the Bronx, through Houston, through Miami, through Hartford. What battles they have fought. What mountains they have climbed. 5,000 people stood and clapped. After the speech, Mrs. Sterling was waiting. She had flown to California. She was older now, moving slower, but her eyes were still bright. "You did good, kid," she said. "I could not have done it without you." Yes, you could have. I just helped you see what was already there. 5 years after that terrible day, I was 17. Second Chances had helped over 1,000 kids across New York, Texas, Florida, and Connecticut. I was graduating from Brooklyn Tech, top of my class, full scholarship to MIT in Massachusetts. The day before graduation, I got a letter from the manager who had laughed at me. "Dear Leo, I was the manager who humiliated you 5 years ago. The man who laughed, who judged, Who told you that you did not belong? I was fired after your story went public. I deserved it. For 2 years, I was angry, bitter. I blamed you for ruining my career. But then I saw what you built. Second chances. All those kids you helped in New York, Texas, Florida, Connecticut, all those lives you changed, and I realized something. You did not ruin my career. I ruined it. My prejudice, my cruelty. I went back to school, got a degree in social work. Now I work at a community center in the South Bronx. I help kids like you, kids who get judged, dismissed. I will never undo what I did, but I can make sure I never do it again. Thank you for teaching me that people are not what they wear. They are what they do, who they are. You changed my life, even though I did not deserve it. Sincerely, a man trying to be better. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back, Dear Sir, thank you for your letter. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because forgiveness is for me, not for you. I hope you help many kids in the Bronx. I hope you see them, really see them. And maybe one day, one of those kids will change the world, just like I did. Leo. I graduated the next day. Grandma was in the front row. Mrs. Sterling was there. 50 kids from Second Chances wore matching shirts. Never judge a shoe by its sole. After the ceremony, we went to a soul food restaurant in Brooklyn. Mrs. Sterling stood up and raised her glass. 5 years ago, I met a boy in a bank. A boy everyone ignored, everyone judged, everyone dismissed. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. But I saw something different. I saw strength, courage, dignity. And I knew that this boy would do something special. She raised her glass higher. To Leo, who proved that the size of your heart matters more than the size of your bank account. Who showed us that we should never judge a person until we know their story. To Leo, everyone shouted. I stood up, my glass shaking. 5 years ago, I walked into a bank on Atlantic Avenue, wearing worn-out shoes. People laughed at me, judged me, made me feel like nothing. I looked around the room, but those people taught me something. They taught me what it feels like to be invisible. And because of that, I will spend the rest of my life making sure nobody in New York or Texas or Florida or Connecticut or anywhere else ever feels that way again. I looked at Grandma. Thank you for teaching me to be strong. I looked at Mrs. Sterling. Thank you for seeing me when nobody else did. I looked at the kids from Second Chances, and thank you for showing the world what kids like us can do. I raised my glass. To Second Chances. To worn-out shoes. To proving everyone wrong. Everyone cheered. That night, I took out those shoes. The ones with holes. I looked at them closely. They were just shoes. Old, worn, broken. But to me, they were everything. I decided to keep them forever. Not in a closet, in a frame, on the wall, where everyone could see. And underneath, a sign. These shoes walked me through Brooklyn, through the worst day of my life, and led me to the best version of myself. Never judge a person by their shoes. You do not know where those shoes have been, what they have carried, where they are going. 10 years later, I am 27. Second Chances has helped over 10,000 kids in 20 cities across America, New York, Texas, Florida, Connecticut, California, Georgia, and more. Grandma is retired, living in a nice brownstone in Brooklyn. Her hands are steady, her smile is bright. Mrs. Sterling passed away 3 years ago at 85. Over 1,000 people came to her funeral. I spoke. I told everyone about the day she stood beside me in that bank. About how she saw me when nobody else did. Now I run a tech company, a big one. We make software that helps nonprofits, that helps schools, that helps people who need help. We have offices in New York, Austin, Miami, and Hartford. And we have one rule everyone follows. Never judge a person by how they look, by what they wear, by where they come from. Every new employee gets a tour of our office. In the lobby, in a glass case, are my shoes. The ones with holes, the ones that started everything. And underneath is that sign. Never judge a person by their shoes. You do not know where those shoes have been, what they have carried, where they are going. Because 12 years ago, a boy with holes in his shoes walked into a bank in Brooklyn, New York. Everyone laughed, everyone judged, everyone assumed he was nothing. But that boy was me, and I was not nothing. I was everything. I just needed someone to see it. And once one person saw it, I started seeing it too. And that changed everything. What you just saw is only a piece of the bigger story. In the next video, a twist no one saw coming will be revealed. Make sure you're here for it. I'd love to hear what you would have done in this situation. Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment. Thanks so much for watching. Show some love by liking, subscribing, and sharing this with someone who needs to see it.